Board. Sorry. We present unbiased, nonpartisan information about elections, the voting process, and issues. And we also, the other role is action and advocacy, and we're nonpartisan, but after study, we use our positions to advocate for or against particular policies in the public interest. The opinions that you hear today from participants and from guests are not necessarily those of the League of Women Voters. And if you'd like to know more about the League, more about our public policy issues or how to become a member, I invite you to visit our website, where you'll find also links to the State League of Women Voters and also to the National League. Our website is lwvsouthbend.org. We extended invitations to elected officials and controllers of the city of South Bend, the city of Mishawaka, and St. Joseph County, and each governmental unit, and we limited this to 3 people from each unit. We're calling you a unit. Was asked to provide a summary overview of expenditures, programs, and special projects directed to homelessness and affordable housing for the fiscal years of 2021 and 22, and projections of 2023, if known, and to also provide short and long-term policy frameworks, goals, and objectives. Each unit will have 20 minutes to speak, and Melanie she's only in my upper left-hand corner. There you go. Is going to be the timekeeper, 20 minutes each. And after all the units have made their presentations about the above topics, we'll conclude with 20 or 30 minutes of questions and answers. And please put your questions and who you're directing that question to in the chat. And then we will read the questions to that particular person aloud for them to answer. We figured that that is the easiest way to do it rather than all of us talking over one another. And we are recording finally, since I finally turned it on. So with that, we're happy to welcome representatives from all 3 governmental units, City of South Bend, City of Mishawaka, and St. Joe County. So the City of South Bend will be Troy Warner. He is a city councilor for District 4. Dan Parker, who is the controller, and Santiago Garcias, who is the executive director of community investment. From St. Joe County, it is John Murphy, who is the chief deputy auditor. And I think
Corey Shipka, she's the
thank you. I couldn't have said your last name, Corey. I'm so sorry. And then from the city of Mishawaka, Matt Mamalente, who is the vice chair of the Mishawaka Common Council. And with that, I think we'll start. We're going to start with St. Joe County with John Murphy. He has a PowerPoint to show us. So we will start there.
So I'm going to go ahead and share this screen. I'm not sure I have the full mechanics worked out, but oops, that's not it.
Awesome.
Can you see it or no?
You betcha. It's fine.
Oh, you can? Oh, good. All right. Well, that's good to know. Well, I'm happy to be here today, along with Corey Shipka, who's our emergency rental assistance director and also our grant manager. She's done a tremendous job coming into the county about a year ago. She's kind of like a rainmaker for the county as far as grants are concerned. So we really appreciate her taking time to present or to co-present with me on this. St. Joe County currently has 3 major housing or homeless programs, if you want to consider it that way. One is the emergency rental assistance number 1, emergency rental assistance number 2, and the Motels for Now program. Corey runs the first 2. I'll give kind of the overview, but I'd ask her to jump in to give any context or flavor that would be important. The emergency rental assistance number 1 is a $8.1 million U.S. Treasury grant award that the county received on January 19th, 2021. The payment was made in advance. It's funded from the CARES Act, which was the original COVID stimulus grant that started in 2020. Total payments to date are $6,082,411. So you can see that, close to 80% of the payments have already been made out of this fund. The majority of the payments are for rental arrears or forward rent, and also utilities is a smaller piece of the action, but it's very important. So Corey has hired some part-time and seasonal employees to help her crank out these checks. We also work with some partner agencies, which we'll talk about a little bit in a minute. The full grant should probably be spent by the end of 2020. I think 2021, I believe that's the correct. One interesting tidbit that we're very happy about, proud of, St. Joe County is listed in the top, as one of the top 10 counties in kind of managing their ERA program and getting the money out. So we've really distributed quite a bit in a short period of time. We had to kind of gear up a whole new department, kind of on the fly. We had some assistance from InFocus and some other consultants, but it's really been a remarkable effort that she and her team have accomplished. Emergency rental assistance number 2 is a $6.4 million U.S. Treasury grant. We've received $2.5 million so far, which is 40% of the total. It's funded by the American Rescue Plan, which is the 2021 President Biden sponsored plan. Total payments today are $413,813. So we're just kind of gearing up as emergency rental assistance 1 goes away, that we'll start issuing more payments against emergency rental assistance number 2. Rental arrears, forward rent are the largest component. Utilities is a smaller component. I'm estimating, Corey, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we'll have this spent by the end of 2022. I think our deadline is later than that, but I think we'll have it spent. The remainder of the grant, $3.8 million, will, or 60% of the grant will be available once we've committed 75% of the first payment. So we're working ahead really well on that. We have like mini cubicles all over the office. Everybody's sharing offices and so it's kind of a little bit of a madhouse over here, but Corey and her team are doing a great job getting this distribution out to those who need it. As far as application status, we have 2,976 have been entered into the portal, which we have a special portal for applications. 1,413 applications have been approved, and Prosperity Indiana, which is an advocacy group down in Indianapolis, estimates there's 3,659 estimated households in St. Joe County that are behind on rent. That may be low. I can't really speak to that. Some of the partner agencies, and I think didn't pick all of them up. Catholic Charities, Real Services, St. Vincent de Paul's, United Religious Community. And here is Corey's email. If anyone in the league or on the call wants to get in touch with her on how the program works, the eligibility and so forth. Corey, did you have anything to add as far as how those programs are going?
Oh, thank you. That was a great overview. I just say this is a new program for the county. We haven't had any kind of social work program like this so far. So we have learned a lot in a few very short months we've stood this program up. But yeah, all that information is wonderful. We're working with our partner agencies to process applications as quickly as we can. I mean, the program has been taking longer than anticipated to approve programs. So if any of you guys are land homeowners yourselves that are landlords, our program is slower than we anticipated, but we are getting the assistance out to those who need it, and we will continue to do so until we run out of funds for this program.
All right, well, thanks, Corey.
Thanks.
The next program is the Motels for Now program. I'm sure it's pretty wide, well-known in the media and so forth. Sheila McCarthy, who's the director of the program on the ground, will join the meeting later. She has a commitment, but will be available later for questions. The program started in August of 2020 in response to the 10 encampments in South Bend. You asked for budget information, financial summaries, and so we wanted to start off with that. Paid to date, meaning from August 20 to September of 2021, total expenditures have been $935,701. The majority of the costs relate to motel room rentals. The second highest category is staffing costs, the $374,788. That's not a totally clean number because there's other reimbursements for expenses, travel and so forth that is repaid to Our Lady of the Road, which is the managing nonprofit for this, included in that. But the majority of those costs are salary and FICA cost. We purchased 2 used vans in connection with the program, and then there have been other expenditures. The funding for this is the 2020 funding was through the CARES Act. It's kind of an indirect funding where we charge certain police and public safety and health costs, and then that we had already budgeted, and we paid for these costs out of those savings. A FEMA grant, which Corey has also applied for, and we are very close to receiving. We've actually been $577,345. It will be used for to cover Motels for Now program costs from January 1st, 2021 to June 30, 2021. And the balance will be paid with the American Rescue Plan. The middle column is the unspent balance. It's kind of like the initial contract balance through September 30th, 2021. So we may or may not need to spend this money. If there's any bills, hotel bills or staffing bills that come in, we'll apply those. The third column is the approved budget. About 2 weeks ago, the county council approved the budget continuation of the program from 10/1/21 through 3/31/22, another 6 months of the program. These are the budgeted amounts, $829,443. The room rental, the staffing cost, some security camera rentals broken out. Some rehabs of some of the rooms there that are in the worst condition, and some other expenditures. That's going to be paid out of the American Rescue Plan Fund. And so if you add up all the total, probably worst case or highest case is $2.1 million in expenditures so far, either paid for or budgeted or committed. There's no commitment after 3/31/2022. The county council wants to kind of look at that, look at maybe other options, maybe more permanent options on what to do, but they wanted to get the program going through the winter months. An important note to make note of: the city of South Bend pays for wraparound mental health services provided by Oak Lawn. And those aren't included in the above financial summary, but we at the county are very appreciative of what the city of South Bend is doing because they're partners on the in the program, so we appreciate that. Here's some facts on homelessness. I'll try to wrap it up. I'm doing okay on time so far. I can't hear you, but that I assume I'm
I
doing.
said you've used about half your time.
Okay, that's good. I'll try to keep it brief then. These are some kind of key facts on homelessness. Affects about 0.5% or less than 1% of the population. Sometimes homelessness is transitory, where it's less than 12 months. Homelessness is solvable. 80 cities have led the way in housing our most vulnerable citizens. Our Lady of the Road, which is the agency that runs the program on the ground, they've done different things in the past. They've run the Catholic Worker Program. They've operated a free laundromat on Main Street since 2005. During the tent encampment situation, they had 2 donors, private donors, that housed 80 people for 2 months in the motel. So after the 2 months, then during that time period, a committee of county council members, the auditor, Mike Hammond, other individuals, some City of South Bend council members as well, kind of brainstormed on what could be done to kind of continue the work that the private donors had started for the initial 2 months. So that's how the Motels for Now originated. St. Joe County continues the program using federal COVID grant dollars. The funding is in place through March 31st, 2022. So we don't have a long-term solution yet, but we're working on that. Kind of the Motels for Now, how is it different than Center for the Homeless and other homeless centers? It employs more of a housing first model, which I've done a little bit of reading on that. And theory and the philosophy behind that is you provide housing first, and then that allows stability for residents to move forward in other areas of their lives, like alcoholism or addiction. So Motels for Now has approximately 300 person or 3-month wait list to get in. So the idea is to kind of turn people over to, or in a sense, try to get them permanent housing, either privately or anything's available, maybe the housing authority, anything like that, and then to make room for new individuals. This is some statistics. The program has served 394 people since its inception. 26% have stayed more than 6 months. The average stay is 4 months. Currently, there are about 120 guests at the program. The Our Lady of the Road, this program has employed 16 staff members, mostly part-time, including 3 PhDs and 2 masters. And the budget is around $130,000 per month if you want to look at it on a monthly basis. Question we often get is, where are the residents coming from? Are they coming from Chicago or Detroit? Or that's not really the case. Most of them are local people to the Michiana area. Half are over 55 or under 22. 2/3 are single men, and 1/3 are families or single women. I don't think the program has stopped. I think they're not taking families anymore. I could be mistaken on that. Maybe Sheila could clear that up if there's any questions about that. And this is just kind of a dot of where the kind of the yellow circle kind of indicates that the residents are coming from the immediate or surrounding areas. You know, it could be Elkhart, maybe Cass County and so forth, but majority from St. Joe County. And here's kind of the next steps, kind of the, how does it working? Are there any benefits? About 25% of the guests find their next step or the housing alternative without assistance from the Motels for Now program. About 10% of the guests have moved into new housing with assistance from the program. Nearly 40% have stayed with the program, never leaving. So there's kind of that permanent block of people that are staying with the program. It's good and it's bad. I mean, it's good that it provides stability for those individuals. It's bad in the sense that it doesn't free up space for other people that are in need. And future plans for the Motels for Now program, and I think these probably are shared with the City of South Bend, and maybe are kind of contingent on some of the work that they are doing and Mannix is doing, is a year-round weather amnesty program, and then create a permanent low barrier intake center. I mean, I think we at the county are curious on what those studies will reveal as far as the best path forward. So really the philosophy that we have is let's get the program funded, and it has been funded through the first quarter of 2022, and then let's work together with the other agencies and communities and governments in this area to develop a more permanent solution. And here are the contact information. Margie File is the founder and president of Our Lady of the Road, and Sheila McCarthy is the program director for the Motels for Now program. So that's what we have as far as a presentation. Be happy to answer any questions if we have any at this time, or maybe we just go on to the next presentation.
Thank you very much, John. I'd like to, I think I'd like to go on to the next presentation. That was wonderful. If we could go on to the next presentation, and then people that have questions for you specifically can put that in the chat, and we can revisit that at that time.
That's perfect. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so if we could go to then the city of South Bend, and that's a whole unit in one room. There you go.
I think we're afternoon now. Good afternoon. I think we also have a representative of the mayor's office on, Jordan Gather, so they can also ask questions also. But so I'm a member of the council. The council in South Bend is a 9-member body. It is the entity that approves budgets and financial allocations and approves positions and jobs. You know, one of the kind of the myths that exist about the council is that we have the ability, like Congress, we can just add things in and add line items and put things into the budget, and state law, it doesn't work that way. The council can reduce spending on items, but we cannot add any specific spending, and we cannot increase spending. Those proposals have to come from the mayoral administration and then be approved by the council. So really the budget process is a cooperative process from the mayor's office and the council, along with input from the residents. You know, basically I look at it as we have these funds and we have to talk to the community and what are the needs and how can we best spend those funds to address those needs. In the over the last, since 2018, City of South Bend's funding on its homeless programs have tripled. We've made a considerable increase in efforts and funds given to the programs. In addition, the city has really taken kind of a broad approach to homelessness. There's a housing crisis in our community, particularly affordable housing. So some of the plans, Mr. Garces will go into more detail, but some of the plans that the city has been working on and will be funding through ARP plans and general fund dollars coming up are programs that provide access to capital financing for either home buyers or home builders and kind of build the gap. There are neighborhoods in the city where you can spend $100,000 on material and build a house. However, once you're done, that value of the house is going to be less than $100,000. So you start off with this negative gap already. And so the city is working on addressing some of those programs. In addition, as Mr. Murphy said, we've been kind of working in cooperation with the county on their programs and providing funds for Oak Lawn to provide wraparound services for the Motels for Now program, and just trying to take a multi-pronged approach to assisting people that are dealing with that. And that's kind of the broad picture. And I'll turn it over to the city controller. He can go more into the dollars and the funds, and then Mr. Garces can talk about the specifics of the programs.
All right. Thank you, Troy. So I will share my screen as well, and we'll talk about the specific programs and dollars that are both currently in the 2021 budget as well as in the 2022 proposed budget. So this is actually a slide that we've had in our budget meetings that we've had with the Common Council on the 2022 proposed budget. And so we kind of organize our budget proposals around priorities. And so the two main priorities that are applicable to today's discussion are safe, affordable housing, and then the approach to homelessness. Around safe, affordable housing, the city has had in its budget for a number of years, both federal funding through the Community Development Block Grant Program in excess of $2 million a year, as well as funding for a home repair program and home repair assistance programs. That's in the 2021 budget and is currently being utilized. And then the other thing you'll see on this slide is that in the 2022 budget, we really divide that into two categories, what we call the structural budget and the ARP budget. So the structural budget is city dollars. That is sort of our ongoing revenue sources. And then the ARP budget is utilizing some of the one-time funds that the city received through the ARP. The city received $58.9 million to help address some of these priorities. So within the structural budget, we're proposing continuing to expand home repair assistance programs, as well as put some money to supplement the money that John talked about from the county on eviction prevention and making sure that people are able to afford their rent. And then within the ARP budget specifically, really looking to address this issue of affordable housing from all sides, including substantially expanding access to home repair assistance programs, adding about $2.5 million into that budget to address existing housing stock and improve existing housing stock, adding $2.5 million into housing financing assistance to help build new houses. And really, one of the things that I know Mr. Garces would like to talk about is helping to close the gap between the appraised value of a house and the construction cost. So lots of times, especially in certain areas, there's the construction costs to build a house are larger than what that house is actually going to appraise for. And so it's difficult to obtain financing to actually build those houses. And so one of the things that we'd like to do with those housing financing dollars is to help bridge that gap and help developers be able to access financing in those areas to build new homes. And then the last $1 million on here is really around home buying assistance programs. So this can include, as it says there, down payment assistance. It can also include educational programs to help buyers access funds and access financing, whether that's federal programs or otherwise, to help purchase homes. So really kind of trying to attack the affordable housing priority from all sides, including existing homes, new homes, and the facilitating of people who want to purchase homes. Just a few more slides in terms of how the city utilizes that big pot of money, the $2 million for CDBG. The vast majority of that is utilized for housing. And so you can see both the 2021 CDBG allocations and the 2022 CDBG allocations. And I'll let Santi go a little bit deeper into how those funds are utilized. But that is primarily dedicated towards housing and housing assistance programs. On the homelessness side, for those specifically those residents that are experiencing homelessness, the city has for a number of years put directly into the budget what we call homelessness strategy implementation dollars. And this covers a wide variety of different things, including weather amnesty programs and efforts for permanent supportive housing and implementing permanent supportive housing strategies. We also have in the budget federal funding specifically for homelessness, both through the Community Development Block Grant Program and through what's known as the ESG program, the Emergency Solutions Grant. And so there is about $550,000 worth of federal funding that is sort of an annual investment in homelessness strategy implementation. We also got additional dollars through the Emergency Solutions Grant and CDBG from the CARES Act, as John talked about earlier. And on the ESG side, the CARES Act additional allocation is what is actually funding the city's commitment to the wraparound services for the Motels for Now program that John referenced. And so that's being funded from those ESG service or that ESG federal funding. The other thing that I wanted to mention is not only are we utilizing the 2022 ARP budget to try and supplement the investment in weather amnesty and sort of ongoing homelessness strategy implementation with a few extra dollars in 2022. But we would like or we're proposing to allocate a substantial portion of the city's ARP allocation to partnerships with the county on homelessness and mental health specifically. And so this is in its infancy. And subject to ongoing conversations with the county, but a couple of the items that have received ongoing discussion both at the city level and the county level are an intake center, as well as a mental health crisis center, both of which can help address some of the issues that lead to homelessness, as well as address individuals that are experiencing homelessness today. So that's what's in the budget. I'll turn it over to Santi to talk a little bit more about these programs as well as the housing programs.
Perfect. I'm gonna try to get the other slides available. Here we go. So I'll just start really briefly by acknowledging the fact that what I'm about to share is mostly the work of amazing women who have been doing this work for a number of years, including Pam Meyer and Liz Meredith and many others. So sometimes I just get to be the messenger, but they're doing a lot of the difficult and important work, and they've been doing that for a number of years. So I'd say one thing to focus on the affordable housing components that Dan and Troy mentioned. Again, we understand that housing and homelessness is a complex issue, and there's a number of different facets that we need to address, and we're trying to be as holistic and comprehensive in what we're proposing. So the next slide. So part of our ARP funding request includes $2.85 million of housing repair. So housing repair is a great resource to be able to provide affordable housing. First of all, the house is already there, and a lot of the houses that we have are great houses that have good bones, that are houses that if we were to build them the same way that they were built before, they would cost much more than it'd be unaffordable to build a house to the same standards. So repair is a critical part of affordability. In the past, we've provided about $500,000 each year to housing repair, and we're proposing a 5.7 increase for next year. And as part of that, we're also requesting some extra resources in terms of staffing to be able to manage the new programs. And like we're trying to be holistic with this amount of funding. We're trying to be creative and think about some of the gaps that the existing programs have had. So we're trying to enable some of the funding to be available across the entire city. We are also trying to work on geographies, particularly looking at areas that have been historically disinvested, including areas that were redlined, where the federal government has done historic harm in the access to finance in housing that have a lot of consequences many years after. We'll continue to work with partners. A lot of the work in housing that has gone through the CDBG program and before has gone in concert with a number of partners that help develop and maintain affordable housing throughout the city. And there's also a focus on trying to bring new resources that are directly tied to improving energy efficiency, thinking that we can tackle both the affordability issue and also the kind of existential crisis that we have around climate change, but making sure that the houses that we have in our community use less energy, which also reduces the cost of ownership for the people that are there. In terms of new construction, again, we have $2.5 million that we've requested for next year. A lot of these are going to be new programs. As Dan and Troy mentioned, it goes to try to address the gap between the appraisal value and the cost of construction, with some added values around, with some added onus on the access to finance and the affordability of new housing as well. So that's what this other program is gonna focus on, in the extending home buyer assistance. So as Dan mentioned, we're in the early stages of making the request to council, and obviously as we progress through the budget process and going into next year, a lot of the heavy lifting of designing and bringing more specificity and more details to the programs, we'll start working on this. Just briefly, because I know that we're probably running out of time, we're also working on making sure that there's one of the challenges around affordability is the lack of access to labor to be able to do the repairs and the construction. So we'll also be working on expanding access to opportunity through workforce development and training programs, both in partnership with the schools, but also with other people, to try to make sure that as we use these funds, that we're enabling people to access new jobs and that are able to be able to build wealth through this influx of funding that we have. What else?
You have, just letting you know, you have 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. I thought I was out of time, but again, this is part of what I was referring to in terms of the workforce development work, and we're trying to insource some of the workforce work that we've done, including making sure that people have access to some of the certifications and skills that are going to enable people to deploy some of these, like energy auditors, solar panel installers, those kinds of jobs. And in parallel to that as well, we have some new funds and new funding opportunities to help small businesses and people that haven't traditionally been able to participate in the mainstream economy, if you will, and trying to reduce the barriers that prevent people from doing so. So we've identified, for instance, that in order for you to be a licensed contractor, you need to have a workman's comp, and you need to be bonded. So trying to figure out some creative solutions in which we enable people to access some of these opportunities are things that we're looking at. But I'll pause.
Yep, I think with that, we'll yield the rest of our time, and we're happy to answer any questions when it comes time for that.
Okay, thank you very much, Dan and Troop. And just as a reminder for folks, when they put the questions in the chat, if they will put the entity they want to answer those questions, so we know which way to direct them. And finally, I would like to have the city of Mishawaka, Matt Molinetti, your Mamaletti. I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
I went
It's happened in my
backwards.
whole life.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's all right. I'm just
Anyway, you're on. Thank you very
teasing. Well, I
much.
appreciate it, and I want to extend my thanks to the League of Women Voters for what you guys do on a daily basis, and for hosting this event this afternoon, and for bringing light to some of the issues that we're experiencing in this point of time. So I just want to lead off, as you had mentioned, Matt Mamalenti. I'm the Vice President of the Mishawaka Common Council. The mayor, the controller, and the president couldn't attend today, so I apologize in advance. You're dealing with a fourth string representative. I'm a one-man band today, so I don't have a team or anything to present. What I can just do is just offer some information and try to answer as many questions that I can. But relatively speaking, we have to follow the same state laws as Mr. Warner had laid out in terms of from a council standpoint. So relatively speaking, from the three entities that are here, We have a small budget, and we're currently in the process of approving the upcoming proposal for the budget. We don't have any allocated dollars or monies currently towards homelessness specifically. But what we have done in the past through some federal funding, et cetera, and even some local funding is try to help out as much as we can to help fund or make some donation or contribution to some local organizations that already have the structure in place. We don't have an actual center here within the city, but through the CARES Act, we've participated and given some money to the local Mishawaka food pantry, et cetera. But the cool, exciting thing the other groups have touched on is the American Rescue Plan Act money. And as a council and the mayor's administration, this past Monday, we held a public meeting to seek public input and get some great ideas as to how we should spend that money. And we've had some great ideas. The mayor's kind of put out kind of a blueprint, extremely rough blueprint of how he foresees the funding. The city of Mishawaka will get just under $12 million in ARPA money. And the mayor had laid out probably about 7 different buckets, so to speak, that he would like to see some of these monies go towards. Of course, is infrastructure, which you guys, doesn't really pertain to today, but I'll kind of drop down. One of the buckets was really participating and providing some money into the mental health side of things, and I think that in some cases homelessness and kind of go hand in hand in that regard. So we did hear from a very interesting group that gave a proposal at Monday's meeting. So I think, again, as I mentioned, we're in the infancy stages. We've had one meeting. We plan to continue to receive input from the public, along with the council members and the administration, is the best way that we see fit to spend this large amount of money. The mayor had also suggested one of the buckets was a council initiative where basically the council members can kind of get creative as long as it falls within the means to spend that money. So I think we've gotten a lot of great suggestions from the public that we're just going to really look into and look over some of the presentations. But one that, and I'll speak for myself, I am just one of 9 members on the council, but it was the Youth Service Bureau. It's the YSB, and they're really targeting on and concentrating on homeless or runaway youth within our area. And there are quite a few that reside or residents of the Mishawaka that utilize that service. So I think just from the fact that we don't have any allocated dollars per se in the proposed budget, which I think we're all very excited about getting very creative with this ARPA money and really try to hone in and give a sizable contribution to some of the folks that know this industry or this issue much better than I or we as a city. So. And I think, there you go.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Sure.
And now, if I have a couple people that are going to be asking the questions. One is Pam Clays, and the other is Melanie Guillaume. And if Pam can start out and start at the very top, and we'll work our way down through some of these questions, and hopefully we can get to the bottom of the questions, who the question goes to and what the question is, and continue to have places for folks to put in questions in the chat if they still have them. And thank you for all of our speakers today. Hey, Pam.
Yes, thank you, Pam W. And thank you to our speakers and all our guests. I'll just reiterate that we're happy that you're here and glad to have this information. I had to scroll up a lot because there are a lot of questions, but this is the first question for everyone. And it was while Mr. Murphy was presenting. So it regards on the slide, working to end homelessness in St. Joseph County. The bullet point referenced 80 cities leading the way in combating homelessness. Question number one, what does this mean? Which cities? Where are they located? How are they leading? Have any more permanent solutions been identified? Whew, that's a big question.
This is John Murphy, and fortunately, it looks like Margie File is on the call, and I know she's done a lot of research in this area. So Margie, if you're comfortable, would you want to try to address that question on where we came up with that information?
Yeah, hi, John, and good afternoon, everyone. I wasn't able to join right at the beginning of the call, so I actually did not see that slide. But the reference to 80 cities, I think is in the context of the pandemic. There have been many efforts to shelter people in low barrier contexts using motels. And I suspect that that's the reference to the 80 cities. But I'd have to confer with our team to see where they got that information more directly. There's also an effort to collaborate with Community Solutions. And so Community Solutions just received a $100 million MacArthur grant to use a housing first approach to attain zero homelessness at the local level around the country. And there is quite a bit of interest in this local community in working with Community Solutions. So that's something else I would add to the context. So we're actively seeking out other models in other cities to learn best practices around the housing first model. And that's what we're using to guide the Motels for Now program here in South Bend, with a view toward establishing a more permanent low barrier intake center. And certainly our hope is that we, as the cities of South Bend and Mishawaka in St. Joe County, can come together to agree to use some of the American Rescue Plan money to establish a permanent low barrier intake center so that people will have a place to go. There would not be tent encampments if we had such a center, we believe.
Okay, thank you, Margie. I will take the next question. And if we've got, I think, 40 minutes for questions, I think we'll do all right. But if people can keep their questions as concise as possible, we can work in hopefully all of them. The next question is for John Murphy. On one of the slides, you mentioned that homelessness was rare. Is that in our area or nationally? And also, is the county willing to consider helping with more permanent solution?
I think that is more of a national number. Research again, I'd probably have to defer to others. I'm kind of a little bit like Santi, that I'm presenting kind of the upfront person, but some of the information other than the budget information, I'm not the expert, but I think that's more of a national number. Would the county be willing to? I think so. Yeah, that's really what we are doing right now. We've extended the Motels for Now program funding through March 31st, 2022. And so we're working along with, I know City of South Bend and City of Mishawaka are looking at how do we make this more of a permanent solution. We'd be really interested in participating in those discussions for sure.
Thank you.
This is Pam again, and I'll take the next question. And this is to everyone, all our presenters. To what extent is the county and cities able to request sharing the cost of neighboring counties who are emigrating homeless to St. Joseph County. The counties aren't mentioned, but would be Elkhart, LaPorte, and Marshall, and Niles, and so that's the question. Are we able to request sharing from our neighboring counties?
Hello. Hey, beautiful. Uh-oh.
I would say, this is John again, I would say we could request that, but I think it'd probably be under no legal obligation to pay for that. Unless we have some kind of interlocal agreement with,
I thought that was your mom's car.
so that's something to consider. But I think what our research is suggesting is that most of the residents, at least of the Motels for Now program, are actually St. Joe County original residents. They went to high school in St. Joe County or currently live in St. Joe County.
I would
Thank you.
add, from the city of South Bend standpoint, obviously these are issues that are regional, and ideally we have a regional approach to addressing them. Some of the funding that we use to address homelessness is federal funds that are assigned to our region. So in some ways we do recover some of the costs that we spend on managing affordable housing and homelessness from as a region, but it'd be great to have a better coordinated approach with others. I don't think that we have any recourse to recover those besides trying to be good partners and coordinating and making sure that people understand that addressing these issues of human dignity are important priorities for all of us.
Yes, I guess I would reiterate and what Mr. Murphy and the other gentleman had mentioned. I think legally it would be pretty difficult and extensive, but obviously whatever is legal and best for those residents, it'd be worth looking into for sure.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go on to the next question. It's a question for Mr. Murphy again. You seem to be the one that has these questions.
A lucky day, I guess.
Yeah, it's a two-part question, and it's about the Motels for Now. Why are guests asked to leave? Do we know the major reasons why the 40% of guests who stay are unable to move on to other housing?
Again, I probably need to, I don't know if Sheila McCarthy's on the line, but I think Margie also is well familiar with the reasons.
Yes. So it is a low barrier shelter, but it is not no barrier. And so when a guest comes to the Motels for Now program, we go through a list of policies with them that basically involve respectful behavior and an agreement not to entertain guests in their rooms from outside the program, and an agreement to abide by our limited set of regulations, no violence or threat of violence, etc. And so if someone violates those very minimal expectations, we try to work with them. Our goal is to keep them at the motel and keep them housed as much as possible, knowing that the alternative is the street. But if a person continues to violate the rules, then we need to ask them to go.
And it happens pretty quickly. It's within the first week or so. Hello, sorry to be joining late, Sheila McCarthy. I was on for John's presentation, then had to duck out to talk to landlords. Yeah, so people who are unwilling to meet the expectations that they have agreed to follow, that we
I think you froze up a little bit.
and they join the motel program, they sign off pretty clear within the first week. So the majority of people who are asked to leave, it's actually within the first week or two. And then most of them end up coming back. We've had, I think, 65 guests who have returned of our total 400 guests. 65 of them have come multiple times. and they always do better on their second and third time. So that's really hopeful also, that stability is something that sometimes needs practice. But we've seen better results. So sorry to jump in, Margie.
No problem. Thank you for jumping in.
I think there was a second part there about 40% of the guests who stay in the program are unable to move on to other housing. And why would that be? Do we know the major reasons?
Oh yeah, 40% have just stayed. So they're currently, and we have vouchers actively for 20 that we are looking for landlords that will accept them as tenants. So that's why I was meeting with landlords, because it feels like the most essential task we have before us is to connect our people who don't look stellar on paper because they have eviction histories, they have conviction histories, they've struggled with addictions, getting them into housing when they have vouchers from Section 8, from other sources, then that's our paramount task. So if any of you know of houses that are currently unoccupied, or no landlords, then I would be so happy to talk to you about filling them with our people. There's a house associated with Holy Cross Parish that is housing 3 of our guests, the Catherine Griffin House. So perhaps other churches would be interested in doing something similar, and that's paid, they're paying rent with the assistance of the Emergency Rental Assistance Fund, which goes for 15 months. So it wouldn't be, a full active charity, like there is an income for the person willing to do this. But the 40% who have come and stayed, so have shown their stability and are just still at the motel, then it's preventing the few remaining people still experiencing homelessness in South Bend from being housed at the motel. So as soon as we're able to move these folks into somewhere, because now our guests have really demonstrated their stability. The average stay of our current guests is more than 6 months now. If we can get them into, if anyone is willing to take a chance on them, then we can fill the motel with folks from our wait list, which is pretty extensive. It's 300 people long, but most of them are doubled up in other housing, are staying on someone's couch or floor, or in a somewhat, varying state of an unsafe housing situation where they're being exploited. So we have them on our list, but we're most on the lookout for the chronically homeless who are on the street. So the folks that you see on the corners and under bridges, that's who we want to house, and that's who we've successfully been housing this year.
And I'll just add that in general, our area, as so many places in the country, really suffers from a lack of affordable housing. And so if some of the ARP money could be used to generate affordable housing options, so single room occupancy, studio apartments, a whole variety of housing options, that would help enormously.
Pam?
Okay, this question is to everyone. Do Medicaid and Medicare supplement the Oaklawn expenses so that the costs are not just on City of South Bend?
Yes. That's for, I'm pausing to see if there happens to be anyone from Oaklawn here as well, but happy to take that. So we have recovery coaches on site to assist our guests with discussing options for going into treatment for mental health and addictions, and to assist them with the trinity of things that are necessary to do anything in life: a photo ID, a birth certificate, and a social security card, which most of our guests don't have with them because they've been on the move carrying things in a backpack. So they often are robbed, or so they lose their documents. They don't have their documents. So having the stability of the motel allows them to get those documents, which are necessary for employment, which are necessary for housing, which are necessary to do anything. We kind of take it for granted that we just have those things tucked away in a drawer in our house. and don't imagine what it would be like if we were refugees or on the move, and to have just an insecure living situation. So that's primarily what the do, assist guests into getting into the Oaklawn system. So having them do an intake with Oaklawn, which then allows, if they don't have insurance, getting them the insurance they need to get into the Oaklawn system, and then they have access to everything Oaklawn offers, and they're billed through their insurance. So that is a separate stream of funding that's not tied to what the city is providing. The city is paying for the recovery coaches to be on site. So to be that bridge to Oaklawn is what the recovery coaches do, to get people in to do the intake, which then they can have access to the variety of other things that are offered there in terms of case management, etc. So our job is, so they have 2 offices on site at the motel, and what the outreach team, what the Our Lady of the Road staff does is encourage people to go into to speak with them, to get those documents, to get connected with Oaklawn, to get into the Oaklawn system through the intake. So does that answer?
Is this
question?
Sheila McCarthy speaking?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's what I thought. There was a question about who was speaking, so I wanted to be sure. Thank you very much. The next question is there any plan at the county level to hire a homeless coordinator like the city of South Bend has? And is the county going to be coming up with a plan for the homeless like the city of South Bend?
I can tell you that there is not that position in the 2021 or 2022 proposed budget at this time. I know there was some discussion more in the summer about that, but there's nothing in the budget right now. I think that we're open to, I think we're kind of in a situation where we kind of want to see what the studies that the city is paying for, what those kind of recommendations are, and then partner with the cities and city of Mishawaka and city of South Bend on what's the best approach going forward. Maybe it could be a shared funded homeless director position or something like that. Maybe we'd be happy to do that, but I think we're kind of waiting to kind of see what the coordinated approach would look like. I think Diana has a county council member, and would you have anything to add on that if you're on the line?
Hi, everybody. I would say somewhat related to what Mike Mammolini from the city of Mishawaka said. We have never seen ourselves in the homelessness business, if you will. There's people in the community with that expertise. We also don't receive any CDBG funding like the city does to assist with home housing issues. So we did put the coordinator on hold in the county, but I actually am going to have a meeting here soon with the city to talk about what that looks like moving forward. But I think a goal is to help support perhaps a nonprofit or other entities that can continue with the expertise that they have.
Thank you, Diana. I think the next question is for Pam.
And let me just add before I go on to the question, Diane, I'm very glad to hear that you're going to be talking with the city. I think for those on our committee, it's like that is a baby step forward, and we appreciate that. So this next, it has 2 questions. I'll ask them separately because they're involved. When will the county revise the tax sale process to eliminate quote unquote bad actors and speculative investors through methods that were brought up over 2 years ago, including prohibiting purchases by groups that owe local city governments money for not keeping up properties they already own. I'll be happy to read that again if you like, but that is open to everybody. And I guess let me just read the second one in case you want to answer to both of them. And I can reread them if you need. Will the county or city help fund legal title assistance for those who do not have clear title to their homes and therefore don't typically qualify for repair or utility assistance?
This is John. I think those are questions that I'm not able to ask. Our auditor's office is involved in the tax sale process, so I can touch base with some of the staff that work on that to determine how that could be improved. Some of it's, quite a bit of it's regulated by state law on, length of time you have to hold the property in abeyance before you actually close and take the home. So I don't know about that. And I'll also inquire about the legal title situation as well. I really don't work on that part of the auditor's office and treasurer's office functions.
I can answer the second question. So the $1 million for home buyer assistance that we've proposed that I shared with you earlier, part of those funds, we're looking at what are the different interventions that might help cross the barriers. So we've talked about, like there's a couple of potential solutions that come to mind, including helping cover the cost of closing or cover the barrier for reducing the cost of lending, or potentially helping with some of the land issues, including the titling work and whatnot. So again, we don't have defined which are the interventions, but this is the kind of intervention that we'd be considering. And again, our objective would be to focus these interventions in areas that have been historically disinvested and where we know that people have higher barriers based on their income to access home ownership. So definitely one of the things that's on the cards for the $1 million.
Okay, thank you. The next question is for the city of South Bend. Does the South Bend Home Repair Program include tax abatement for homeowners?
So tax abatements are, and especially residential tax abatements, are some of the tools that the city uses to help advance construction of affordable housing. So the answer would be yes, it's part of what we are considering. It's not necessarily that every place that will have a home repair will have a tax abatement. Tax abatements are also done over the increments. So generally where taxes are abated, where the tax abatements are most useful, I guess, is for projects where there's new construction or major remodelations of larger units. But again, we've typically used that for affordable housing projects, and we'll definitely keep trying to work with council to leverage those tools to get more affordable housing built.
Thank you. The next question is for the city of South Bend. Will there be collaboration with Habitat for Humanity and their homeowner education component?
Yeah, we work with a wide variety of partners, and we've had conversations specifically with Habitat for Humanity about potential projects and potential collaborations with the city. Again, the city runs, is one of the HUD certified home counseling agencies as well. So and there's others in the area as well. As I think South Bend Heritage runs home counseling as well. So definitely we look to work with Habitat and with other partners to help educate and make sure that people are aware of the opportunities and the programs that might help them access housing and home ownership.
Okay, thank you. The next question is for John Murphy and Corey Sip. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. I'm sorry. Sipik. Congratulations on the top 10 status of rental assistance. However, applicants to approved appears to be at 50%, while those served as an estimate of need is 33%. Any metrics on recipient distribution, any PR outreach or partnership plans to bolster these numbers and provide more relief to more citizens?
I can take that one. This is Corey Zipka. You did very good. That was close. All right, so for the first part of that question where it talks about, that was a study done by Prosperity. So I'm not exactly sure where they got all of their need numbers from, but the estimate of need is at 33%. So I guess it really depends on where they got those estimates from, but that's just a report that we received. So I'm not really sure on that question. But as far as the metrics on the recipient distribution, we do, In Focus is our processing data team. So they have lots of reports and data to show demographics and things like that. We are unable to provide that specific information. It's Treasury related at this point. But if Treasury releases the data, then we can do that as well. So we do have those. And then the average, if you're talking about the distribution of funds, like what's the average per recipient, it does vary widely, but on average, it's about $4,000 a person. Like I say, some of them are more like 10,000 if they owe many arrears. Some are only looking for 3 months help because they're current, those sort of things. So it really just depends. But we do have a lot of the metrics, and on our website, it kind of splits out the application portal, what the numbers are, and then the things that we can share as far as the breakdown of utilities and some of the numbers that you've seen already today. And we do try to update that weekly as much as we can. And then the last question, PR outreach programs, partnerships. Yes, we're starting our first outreach event. We've in District 2 right now in South Bend, and Black Lives Matter is doing some canvassing for us for the program and for that event. And it's going to be at the Charles Black Center. So that's our first on the ground attempt. They're also doing some radio ads, and then of course, social media posts. We've been doing a couple of press releases and that sort of thing to get the word out. But hopefully this event will be able to mock up to some of the more rural areas of the county, because we know that there's some need out there that we haven't been able to address just yet as far as the application status. But that event will hopefully get us some good groundwork in how we can move our outreach operation a little bit further out. But at that right now, the application is only online, just like the state programs also do. So we are trying very hard to, we have some walk-in clinics available through St. Augustine and St. Vincent de Paul. And then Catholic Charities is going to open one of the walk-in clinics as well. So we can kind of assist those that maybe don't have the opportunity to have a computer or don't have internet access. So we can help that as well. So we're working on the outreach program. As you can see, we have many applications that we haven't been able to process yet. So while we do need to get the additional applications in and notified, we still need to process the ones that we have. And an influx of 1,000, isn't going to help our processing speed. But we're working to balance out, and we are planning on some more outreach events once we get a handle on this one.
Thank you. The next question is to everyone. South Bend Heritage's cooperative housing approach has been useful for helping to improve homeownership success by having staff on hand to help with home repairs, which long-term renters may not be knowledgeable about. Will this type of approach be reproduced? Further, are there metrics on which programs primarily help ND graduate students or other new residents versus those programs that help local impoverished residents?
So I guess I'll try to take this one. Again, I'll try to discern. There's a number of different housing models that the city has worked with a number of different partners. One of them is the permanent supportive housing approach, where people that have experienced homelessness are provided a unit that also includes wraparound services. So there's the first project was completed in Indiana Avenue, and there's some other plans. Again, this is part of the what we know are the toolkits that enable us to reduce homelessness and chronic homelessness. With regards to the co-op model, I believe that was South Bend Mutual Homes was the entity that created the cooperative model. Again, we typically the developers that propose these kind of projects are the ones that come up with like the models, and we love as the city different creative approaches to support these. And I would say that with regards to the eligibility, all of the, especially with all of this CDBG funding, there's some pretty strict guidelines from the federal government around eligibility. With the permanent supportive housing, the people need to have experienced homelessness to be able to participate in the housing units. And again, that'll be my attempt to answer the questions. So happy to look more into some of the metrics and other pieces if there's concerns there.
Thank you. This one is to the City of South Bend. Would you please forward your slides to the League of Women Voters so we can share them?
Absolutely.
And also, I'm going to go on to the next, which is a comment. Thank you for being specific and intentional in addressing historical and systemic discrimination that leads to unequal opportunities and inequities in the housing market and other wealth building opportunities, and for recognizing that the job skills gaps must be addressed and can be addressed in ways that that expand opportunity for all. Pam, you're on for the next one.
All right, thank you. And this is for the City of South Bend. Will licensed and bonded contractors be listed on a website instead of only available through APRA, so that there's a good incentive for contractors to maintain the licensing and bonding?
Yes, that is part of our goals with the building department team of being able to make that information available. Again, there's been in the past some reserves because the list is constantly updated as some of the registrations expire and new people apply. But we believe that if we're able to present the disclaimer of when was the list current as of, that we can move around those. So it's one of many priorities, but I think that hopefully by next year we will be able to have that happen. And again, it also fits our approach of trying to make sure that people working with the city, both registering and licensing, see a value and a benefit in participating kind of through the regular mainstream legitimate way of operating within the city.
Thank you. The next is a comment for Mr. Mammolenti. It's thank you for being here. The South Bend area League of Women Voters, we represent, and that includes Mishawaka, and we appreciate having representation from the Princess City. I'm going to skip the next question because this one is also for Mr. Mammolenti. Will the city of Mishawaka support a permanent low barrier intake center using some of its portion of the ARP funds? A coalition has gathered at the county level to advance this initiative, and we would like to engage the city of Mishawaka in this process. With whom should we speak?
Well, I think the mayor and his administration is the first step to see if that is of interest of his and his administration. I think, based on the small amount of the ARP money, wouldn't be able to build a brick and mortar facility. But as I mentioned prior, we are willing to participate in fiscally to help certain organizations that as best as we can. So to answer the initial question, I think it would have to start with the mayor and his administration.
So that's who you're saying people should go to speak to.
Correct.
Okay. Pam, I skipped the one before, sorry.
No, that's okay. I am catching up. And this is for each local government unit. There appears to be public interest and support for establishment of a land bank. Is it included in any of these budgets? And would this be a short or a long-term goal?
Can take a stab at that question as well. So we did include in our budget request $250,000 to set up a land bank. It is the city's view that it should not and it cannot be the operator of the land bank. And in many ways, the key to a successful land bank is the county, which manages a lot of the land disposition and land management side of things. So we've been listening to the conversations that the community has been having around the land bank. It's been a long-term priority for the city. As I think that since 2012, 2013, when the vacant and abandoned report that the previous administration, the Mayor Pete Buttigieg mentioned that that's been a priority. And certainly for Mayor Mueller, it's a priority trying to identify the right partnerships to get this going, and the city is willing to help fund it. But obviously, it requires the county and potentially other partners of working together. And we have a good relationship, and we hope that we can make that happen as well. So I don't know if John or others have plans on the county side of things, but on the city side, we definitely would like to see this happening in the short term in a sustainable way that we can continue to have a successful land bank for years to come.
I know this is John Murphy. I know certain council members have expressed interest in exploring a land bank, but there is nothing in the 2022 budget to finance that at this time. Something we'd be willing to discuss with the city and maybe learn from the city how that operates and what the advantages would be. But there is nothing in the 2022 budget for a land bank right now.
Thank you. For the city of Mishawaka, do you see any possibility in the future to work with South Bend and St. Joseph County toward more permanent solution for homelessness in our region?
I can't speak for the mayor or the rest of the council, but I think I would be absolutely more than happy and thrilled to have an open conversation with the other groups and try to put our hands and battle this issue. I think even though that we're individual, but I think we're stronger in numbers when we work together. And I think it comes down to money, as most things do in government. But open discussion is extremely welcomed on my part. Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Mamoletti. That's wonderful news too. Another question for you. What is the name of the group proposing new mental health services in Mishawaka? I don't see specifics about it in the Tribune article. And did I hear accurately that Mishawaka has $0 budgeted toward homelessness? Thank you.
Sure, no problem. It was the company that I just referenced briefly in my earlier comment. Is just one of a couple that presented that evening. But the one that I was referencing for short is YSB, stands for Youth Service Bureau. And it's in short, it's a homeless runaway youth emergency shelter. And to answer the second question, perhaps I misspoke regarding $0 allocated dollars, but in terms, since we don't have a brick and mortar facility, I don't recall ever seeing a specific line item labeled homelessness. But however, as I mentioned before, that the city has partnered fiscally with some groups that have more expertise than we do. And I feel that it does, it plays a very important role in preventing homelessness or the potential to be homeless. We've partnered with the school city of Mishawaka and given some money to them for their Head Start program, the Boys and Girls Club, as I mentioned before, the food pantry. And as some of you may know, the city of Mishawaka is actively participating in donations of Habitat for Humanity. What's going on in the most recent builds and with the Jimmy Carter project. when I was on the redevelopment commission years ago, we had a program called First Time Homebuyers Program, which incentivized first-time homebuyers to build a home, and we incentivize them with loan breaks, etc. And since just with our lack of resources, we've kind of passed the baton and partnered with Habitat for Humanity. So a lot of our affordable homes come with a great partnership that we have with Habitat for Humanity. I know we've also converted former city-owned properties and buildings into affordable homes, converting them into apartments, etc. So, where there may not be a specific line item titled or labeled homelessness, but I feel that the city and the administration and the council, with extreme limited financial constraints, that we do a pretty good job of trying to play our part as best we can to prevent it and try to find the right partners that have the expertise in this industry. So.
Thank you. And I'm going to say we've got just a few minutes. So Melanie and Pam, do your magic for the last few questions, because it is now almost 1:30. That's all.
Well, here's one that hasn't been addressed, and maybe we can just chat briefly. And this is for anybody, what can be done to incentivize landlords to accept Section 8 housing vouchers? If they can't be incentivized to accept those, does the Housing Authority need more funding to expand public housing availability? Where would that money come from and all of that kind of stuff? But that's the issue. Don't all rush at once now.
I can take a stab at that one as well. So again, we've been working very closely. Mayor Mueller's administration has been working really closely with the South Bend Housing Authority, with Dr. Catherine Lamberg, on establishing plans to help turn the ship right. And we know that years of mismanagement and issues cannot be done right overnight. And we've been working on trying to increase the availability of affordable housing, not only with the Housing Authority, but also with other developers. And in fact, the Housing Authority has been a great partner in a couple of the applications for the state tax credits that would happen in the city. So they have project-based vouchers and other tools. So we've been working with the Housing Authority and trying to support them and make sure that we can process the vouchers and that we can move the needle forward. But yeah, it's a large undertaking. It requires a lot of conversations. I think that maybe in the spirit of the two-way conversation, then also asking people to, like going and having conversations with their neighborhood associations, with their neighbors, because part of what makes some of this work difficult is the NIMBYism, right? No one wants to have any part of the issue in their backyard, and the reality is that people that experience housing insecurity are our neighbors, they're residents, they're people that are here, and we all need to look after them and figure out how to make things a little bit easier. So I think that it'd be a collective effort of educating landlords and people about, like, why is it important to enable some of these projects to move forward, whether it's homelessness relief efforts, affordable housing, public vouchers for improving access to affordability. All of these things require all of us to make people aware. And again, this is a regional issue. People don't care about what the barriers of jurisdiction are. I think that we all need to work together to address the issue.
That comment leads us to the one question that's left. And I realize that everyone committed here to being here until 1:30. So what I would like to ask of the 3 units of government is, would you be willing to answer the last question in writing and just send it to me? I'm the one that sent you the invitation. So you could just write it back to me, msguillaume@gmail.com. The last question is there interest in establishing greater intergovernmental cooperation on these issues of homelessness and affordable housing via an interlocal agreement across the 3 units? And there was a second part to that question was clarity, please, on which budgets have funding dedicated to an intake center and a mental health crisis center. Is there any budget commitment to mental health crisis intervention teams in lieu of the current police response? So that's a kind of 2-pronged question that I think you can find in the chat. If you would be willing, I hope you will, that someone would clarify in writing for that and submit it to the league, to me, since everybody has my email, if that would be okay with everybody.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Great.
And with that,
Okay.
We are very grateful for what the city of South Bend and St. Joe County have done for the unsheltered in our community, and also for Matt's participation, but also agreement to in the belief that he also feels that it would be good to work with the other 2 units toward this issue. And we hope this coordination will continue and that they can be joined by the city of Mishawaka so that we can say that the unsheltered folks in our community can be taken care of. We want to thank each of our speakers for taking time from their day and for sharing with us all the wonderful information that they have given us, and for the work that they've done in the preparation and the presentation of what they have given us. We thank each of you, the rest of you, for participating and for your attendance and for your questions and for your interest. Finally, this is the extended lunch with the league. And so our regular lunch with the league is next Friday. So just because we came today doesn't mean you can't come next week also. But next week is from 12 to 1. And that's our regular one. It's on October 7th from 12 to 1. Our speaker for the day will be Pat Hackett, and she will be speaking on women in the Constitution. So please look for it online and come join us one more time again.
Isn't that October 8th?
I think it's October 7th, isn't it?
If today is the 1st, it would be the 8th.
Whatever day it is, it's next Friday.
Yes, the 8th.
Okay, it's the 8th. Anyway, thank you all for being here today. It has been lovely, and have a wonderful day on this first day of October.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you.